Welcome everybody to another week of Game Wisdom Live. 1 second while I get everything organized. There we go. This is for the week of May 18th, 2017. We have a great cast for you this week. Unfortunately, James is still out. I'm not sure if he'll be making it back or not. But we are in the guest host season here. And join me this week as my co-host from Indie Voyage. Please welcome Robert Leach.
Hello.
Hi, Rob. It's great to talk to you again. I know the last time we spoke, it was when you got stuck on a deserted highway in the snow, I
Yeah,
think, and
ran out
strangers
of
were
gas.
coming up to the door.
Yeah. Oh
And
boy, that was exciting.
we almost, I think we just came with the next indie game for you to
Yeah,
work on, a little
exactly.
horror game. Hi, Rob. I'm sorry. Hi, XP. Thanks for coming on to the chat this week. And yeah, so it's great to have you back on. I think it's been a few months. So, I guess to start with, how is everything with you and what's going on with Indie Voyage?
Things are going good. We are ramping up. We got Venture Forth launching. On June 2nd. That's the date. Maybe June 3rd. But then we got Messenger, a free demo on itch.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's basically what's going on in a nutshell.
Nice. I know things have been slowly but surely getting busier around here. YouTube channel is continuing to grow, and I was just telling Rob before. I was talking to my friend Josh over at PvP Live. We were talking about doing a guest critical thought, and we just started talking about a random topic, and then an hour and a half flew by. So we still need to record that at some point. I'm just afraid that we'll start talking, and then 3 hours will pass, and nothing will get recorded. I think what I may need to do is just have the recorder on the entire time while we're talking, and then we'll just turn that into like a little impromptu conversation. But it's great to have you on this week. I guess we'll get started with some of the things we've been doing, news of the week, that kind of thing. I guess for me, the game that I've been playing, which for fans of the stream has probably seen, has been the game The Surge. Have you heard of that one?
I just heard about it today, oddly enough.
Yeah, I've been bouncing a little bit off of it. It's for those of you who haven't played, it's basically like a science fiction take on Dark Souls, and you basically get your equipment by ripping it off of the enemies, which is really awesome. But the combat system was just really frustrating me.
Mm.
It wasn't as refined or as finesse based as something like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, or even something like Neo. Did you have a chance to look at Neo yet, Rob?
No, there's only been a handful of games I've been playing lately, and over and over and over again.
Hmm. I know things are getting crazy around here. I just found a few of the indie games I've been following. They're getting on Steam and early access. So now I got like four. I went from like not having anything to play. Now I have like 4 or 5 videos I need to make over the next few days. The big game that I've been looking at is Oxygen Not Included from Clay
Oh,
Entertainment.
sounds cool.
I've been getting really excited about that. It's kind of like a colony simulator, like Dwarf Fortress,
Oh,
but
nice.
you're basically managing replicants in space and trying to keep them alive and keep oxygen flowing throughout. And they've been working on it for the last few months. It's finally on early access, actually, literally today. They're taking it from a closed alpha to now early access purchase. So I'm really hoping that game will turn out well. Another big indie game I've been playing is Dead Cells, which is kind of like a roguelike Metroidvania.
Oh,
It's really interesting. The only problem is that I've already played like 8 hours of it, and they still have like eight more months of early access before they're considering it done.
oh,
So
gotcha.
I can't look at it anymore. I'm just going to burn out on it right now. And I know another big game production line from Cliff Harris of Podset Games. That is now on early access as of today as well. So good luck to Clay and Cliff and Motion Twins, who are developers of Dead Cells. But the Surge is kind of interesting. I guess here's a weird question for you. What do you think about this idea that now people are calling the genre Souls-like as like an alternative to a Dark Souls-esque game?
I mean, it's I. these terms get made and go away, and I think that's a kind of a cool thing. I mean, Dark Souls made such an impact on players and kind of opened up that genre even further. So, hey, why not?
hmm And like we talked about this on like earlier streams and stuff about how like Metroidvania was given birth thanks to Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see like how more developers are going to take this whole Souls formula forward. The developer of The Surge, they originally made the game Lords of the Fallen or the Fallen, something like that, Fallen Lords. I'm sure someone in Twitch chat will correct me in a second on that, which was also very Souls esque. And it's kind of like a very weird thing because the Dark Souls series is such a refined concept that it's very easy to mess up with a game like that. Like if any part of that design doesn't work, it just ruins the experience, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you get to that kind of a level of game making, if you're not super polished, then yeah, you might as well
hmm
just kind of kick it to the curb or double down and work harder on it. So yeah, you're.
Definitely. Now I know this week or these last 2 weeks we've seen some big name games coming out. I know Prey and Justice 2. Have you had a chance to look at any of those?
Only via streams. I've watched some people play Prey a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean that's an intense game. I mean, there's so much, so much to do, and not much direction initially of how to do it. So, yeah, that's a big one. I don't know. I think I'd be intimidated to start that one up.
Yeah. I know for me, one of those games that gets me very flustered like that was the game The Long Dark. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of that one. I haven't had a chance to play that one either,
Oh
but yeah,
yeah.
I've heard of that one.
For those of you who missed the stream or don't know it, it's a open survival game, basically hardcore survival in like you're in like I think like the North or Canada or something like that, and it's like a game where you can die of starvation, hypothermia, tetanus if you stub your toe. You can die from bacteria, or wolves can come and eat you when you're not if you're not careful enough. And a game like that is just very um I can't think of the I'm forgetting the word off the top of my head. Very demanding, I guess, to play. It's not a game where you can just start it up and get the gist of it in like 5 or 10 minutes. It's a game where you're going to play for an hour, you're going to die, then you're going to load
Yeah.
it back up, another hour, die, and so on until you eventually start to get something happening.
Yeah, for that kind of a game, I like to, and this is how I treat Dwarf Fortress. This is the one I always go back to. It's one of my favorites. But I mean, I always go to a tutorial. Certainly, I started Dwarf Fortress like 9 years ago, but nowadays you just have to go find a tutorial to just kind of get you started. And I
hmm
feel like I would totally do that for a game like The Long Dark. I feel like that's what
Yeah.
I would have to do to enjoy it.
Yeah, and that always, I think, is a killer for me for a lot of the more demanding games. If I can't figure it out from just playing your game, I usually will tend to bounce off of it. Something like Stellaris or Crusader Kings from Paradox would be some good examples of that as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. I mean, that's a very good point in
Mm-hmm.
terms of jumping into a game and being able to grasp it. I know for most of the games I play, they tend to be very simple as it is,
Mm-hmm.
like go kill something or jump from here to there or just get to the end of the level. But I know for really open-ended games, it can present this kind of like for me, like this freezing point, like an artist with a blank
Mm-hmm.
canvas. It just gives you so many possibilities that it's kind of hard to grasp something. So
Yeah.
I do like a little instruction
Mm-hmm.
when I start up.
Yeah, but tutorial design is definitely a major element when it comes to designing a game, especially when we talk about independent games who, as I'm sure you're no doubt aware of, tend to be on the more unique side. Like,
Mhm.
you're not going into this with pre existing knowledge or another game that's similar that you can kind of draw your experience from.
Yeah, certainly. Like, and there's always the arguments of how to do a tutorial. Do you just do text? Do you
Oh,
try and
goodness.
do you try and massage your way through naturally, which is just a really tough thing to do, especially
hmm
depending on the thing you're doing. I know just getting that,
Do
ripping off the
you
band-aid with text sometimes is just the best way.
do you have like the little fairy from Zelda going, "Hey, listen," for the first 5 hours of play nonstop
Oh my
on a
god.
loop?
Oh gosh, I recall that the game that gave me the hardest time, and I can't remember the name of it. It came out years ago. You're like a dog, and you have to draw shapes on the screen. It was a console game.
Okami.
Uh, okay, yes.
Hmm.
The intro to that was so long that I
Oh
just kind of
yes.
I couldn't do it. I just had to turn it off.
Oh yeah, I remember that one too. And it's always challenging when you're trying to create a tutorial that's great for new players without making someone who's played the genre, start banging their head against the desk, going, "Let me just play."
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. Like I've seen articles. I've One of my favorite videos from GDC was George, fan of Plants vs Zombies fame, talking about how he designed the tutorial and UI for Plants vs Zombies.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Hmm. But it's one of those things. I guess this kind of leads into when talking at least a little bit about Injustice 2 coming out. Competitive fighting games is another area where I think tutorial design has been somewhat lacking. Like
Oh yeah.
I've tried learning a few of them, and it just never sticks. Like Street Fighter 5, for those of you who watch my streams of it, that was just 2 hours of punishment for me playing that game.
I love watching esports and like I just tried picking up Dota 2 and their tutorial is
Oh
miserable.
boy.
It is
Good
miserable.
luck. That's all I'm
Yeah,
gonna say.
right. Yeah,
Eh. I guess how are you finding it so far?
I mean, I really enjoy it. I am on the AI, like I'm trying to defeat the AI group right now, and it is miserable. Every time I get a death, like a kill, I'm just celebrating because I die so often. Right now, I just try to keep back and let all the other AI do the work. But I'm learning how to mine a little bit, so that's exciting.
My friends have been bugging me to buy that game, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, like the
Well,
new big thing on Steam right now. It's supposed to be like a King of the Hill style game, like H1, whatever the heck that one. And here it is, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds, and I just that kind of stuff just does not interest me. Like I just cannot play something like that kind of hyper competitive play. Like the same thing happened to me in League of Legends. Like I don't want to play a game where I get a death and then I have four people yelling at
Killing,
me
yeah.
for the next 15 minutes.
Hmm.
And then like Counter Strike where oh my goodness. And again, these are with supposedly my friends that I'm playing with. I'm just like, no, like, not only am I not playing with, you're all dead to me after playing Counter Strike. I will never speak to you all again.
Exactly, yeah. That is one of the things I never like playing multiplayer. I mean, I will.
Hmm.
I've done it before, but I try to avoid it. Even when I was playing WoW way back in the day, I was doing solo player experience, and that was, you can only get so far back then. I know now it's better, but you can only get so far, and then you play a different character and get up to like level 10, 20, and um,
Hmm.
for whatever reason, actually it's that exact thing. I don't like some of the abuse you get online, and especially
Hmm.
as a new player, it's not very inviting.
Hmm. It's kind of why I like with Gwent that there is no text feature in that game. You can't talk to anyone. You can't say anything. Let me see. XP in chat saying about yeah, sure. Like there are thing about streamlining things in future Street Fighter games. I believe. Like they're saying the new Marvel versus Capcom game is going to be more streamlined. They're going to be removing a lot of the button combos or making it easier to perform. I know that that's gotten some competitive gamers in a bit of an argument as to, you know, should there be like that kind of a skill ceiling when it comes to playing a fighting game? And I'm of the opinion that it should be as easy to get into as you can make it. Like playing competitive games shouldn't be about um, having to input a 20 button combo string or trying to memorize those crazy combos in Street Fighter 5. But it depends, I think, on where your background is when it comes to competitive games.
Yeah, I would say that there are games that just should be approachable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fine with like Dota and League of Legends being unapproachable from a regular standpoint because it is a professional sport
Mm-hmm.
where lots of money is at stake. So that's fine. You know, you can certainly get to that. You know, learning how to play and learning how to play somewhat competitively online. But you know, having that alternative, and I'm trying to remember, is Heroes of the is it Might or something that Blizzard is making? It's a little bit easier to get into, but yeah, I do think that there is a place for the complex stuff, and there's a place for the easier stuff, just because of the way that you know there are professionals playing some of these games.
Mm-hmm. And with the esports scene, I know we were talking about this just before the stream. When it comes to esports, we are seeing there's definitely this push towards becoming more mainstream and more open. I mean, right now, I'm sorry, for Friday nights, I know they're doing that whole E League on TPS. They're actually running like an esports tournament. And so we're definitely seeing this attempt to try and make it more accessible and try and get more people into it. But a lot of these games have just never been set up that way. Like
Mhm.
going back to trying to learn StarCraft 2, there is a huge difference between playing the campaign versus playing even just like a bronze, like the lowest tier of that competitively. It's almost
Mhm.
night and day in trying to learn how it works.
Yeah, for sure. That is one thing that's always surprised me. Like when I heard that StarCraft 2 was still being played competitively, I mean, as my shirt, as the only line of my shirt you can see is so it's so telling. I am old, and so I remember StarCraft 2 was from way back when, and when I heard people were still playing it, I was just like, what? That does not compute for me. But yeah. Having people who have perfected it that much over that long of a period,
Mm-hmm.
certainly trying to jump in and play with those folks is just got to be, you know, you got to be banging your head against the wall.
Mm-hmm. And I was just talking about this before we got on our stream. I'm still waiting for that esports game that is easy to learn and difficult to master. Something like I was saying this earlier. I would have loved For Honor to have really have taken off because I really like the idea that it was competitive, but it wasn't focused on the complexity that we see in a traditional fighting game. But it doesn't look like, at least right now, that things are going to be going that way for the game. Unless, oh, maybe Ubisoft will be able to turn things around, but who knows?
Yeah, it's tough to say where that stuff's going to go. I mean, predicting what game's going to be popular and what's not is got to be like those marketing people who deal with like those kind of games and someone trying to put a ton of money into making it an esport. I don't know how you do it. There's so much money caught up in some of these ones that are established. I don't know how you fight against that and make another one that popular. I see so many on Twitch. Every time I turn it on, there's a new one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, basically, but
Mm-hmm.
there's such a variety and there's so many coming out. I don't know how they can stay alive for a very long time. I guess you have to be seen what the max is, where the bubble bursts.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And there was a time where, like, it was at least a few years ago, that everyone was trying to be the next big esports craze.
Hmm.
And like things have definitely, I think, have quieted down since then. I know like a player unknown Battlegrounds is trying to be like a big one, but it seems like these days that you really do need to have like the clout and the resources behind you in order to push into that scene.
Yeah, you got to make it. I mean, really, when you want top tier players, you got to make it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you got to sweeten the pot for them to come in and join. So if you have like a zero money tournament, you're not going to attract many pros. You might attract people who are wanting to get into a new game, but like you got to have a tournament that has a money prize at the end to attract people who are good and can otherwise make a living somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking about like tournaments and stuff, I know I was watching this the other day that Gwent just had its like I think either its first or its second really big tournament. It was I think live streamed and all that. I don't know what the prize pool for it was. Let me see if I can look that up.
Which one? I missed that.
Gwent.
Went okay.
Let's see. Oh, it was looks like it was $100,000 grand prize for that pool. So I mean, that's some serious money. I know. Didn't Dota 2 have like a 250 or even more for their
Oh
prize?
gosh. Last it was maybe 2 years ago, they had like a $5 million prize pool.
Whew.
I mean, yeah, so the maybe it was more because I know that the finals, the
Mhm.
winners got $5 million, $1 million each. And I mean, granted that they have to pay for all these other things, but like yeah, it's getting crazy, like
Mhm.
just insane. So
Yeah.
uh
And have you had a chance to play Gwent at all, Rob?
I have not. It's actually one of those games that I'm writing down a lot of these games so I can remember to go and get them or look at them. So that's one of them.
Yeah. For those of you watching this, I know Gwent is going to its public beta next week, which I think it's either like the 23rd or 24th of May. And they're doing a whole big balance patch in honor of that. So I want to be curious to hear what people think about it. Since I've been doing like the closed beta for the last few months. I stopped playing about 4 or 5 weeks ago just because the meta was getting kind of repetitive. So I'm curious to see how the general public is going to take Gwen, especially when we're in a market of stuff like Shadowverse, Duelist, and of course Hearthstone.
Yeah, I mean Hearthstone's one of those that having played a ton of board games, it is very approachable for
Mm-hmm.
me. I've played a lot of card games. I've played a variety of difficulties in card games, so it is an approachable thing. It seems like something that's easy to grasp for someone who can do some
Mm-hmm.
quick math in their head. Now, obviously, they've taken it to a whole new level. But it is one of those that you can kind of watch and grasp a little bit easier. I know for the other types of esports, um,
Mm-hmm.
watching it and kind of having an understanding of what's good and what's bad, that's the best way to go. And learning those details afterwards, I think, is very important for
Mm-hmm.
people who start to really get into it. And if there's a ceiling there, if there's a ceiling on in terms of the depth of the game, that might become a problem for fans.
Yeah. And someone was telling me, like, speaking about Hearthstone, one of the suggestions for a critical thought was, and this is a fun one because it's like almost impossible to figure out, is one of the biggest issues when it comes to collectible card games is obviously the power curve that grows over time. As new
Mm-hmm.
cards come in, old cards are either made obsolete, or it becomes to the point where you can play the game free, but if you won't have any chance of beating someone, you need to immediately put at least $30 in for booster packs. And the question was, how do you combat that kind of power creep or that power curve in like a CCG game? And I knew someone was going to ask that because well, I'm afraid that they were because I just have no idea how to do that in easy sense. Because it seems that it's almost like an eventuality for a lot of these games, especially when we're talking about CCGs or TCGs like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and so on.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I mean, in order to keep again, it's in order to keep people interested
Mm-hmm.
to switch it up and make sure that the people who are great at the game don't settle into very specific strategies.
The whole
Um,
net deck phenomenon is a pretty big
yeah,
issue.
yeah. I mean, but that's the way to make the games interesting and to keep the pros like adjusting all the time. And it is kind of artificial.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes your game seem like it is not perfected
Yeah.
if you're constantly shifting the balancing. But hey, I guess that's what people are starting to settle on, or companies are starting to settle on, is as a way to keep people, interested and keep exciting games going.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that one of the things I do like about Gwen, at least from the public beta, has been that they have shooken things up really drastically. In fact, when they go into open beta, they're basically gutting one of the main systems I've gotten used to over the last 4 or 5 months. So it's going
Hmm.
to basically be day one for a lot of people, even the old veterans. But the question though is, how many times can you reasonably do that in a game, especially if you have one that has in-app purchases or monetization? I know we just mentioned Hearthstone, that whenever Hearthstone has a major patch or major card revisions, they of course issue refunds or you get bonus scrap value on that card. But it's always that fine line between, do we change a game so much that it's just a completely different game and may piss people off, or do we not change it enough and then basically, as we said, the net decks come out, and everyone has your top 5 preferred strategies that work all the time, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that there is a way to build in a balance kind of mechanism that keeps in mind that kind of growth. And if you don't have that in place, it can feel really artificial. And like you say, for one that does more of an adjustment, it feels like the rug is being pulled out from under every regular player. And you having to continue to invest money is it kind of hurts the most players. You don't always have an infinite amount of funds, so.
And it also leads in that kind of like the rich getting richer situation where the pro players who already have the best cards will win easier, so they'll have more currency to spend on the new cards to give them a better advantage, and the wheel just keeps going round and round.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I guess for some news that's been happening this week, I know Polygon put up a very interesting post about their thoughts on Steam that's been making the rounds all over the place. I know it's kind of a dicey subject. I was actually saving that for a critical thought probably next week, but did you see that article that they posted?
No, I haven't. I'm actually very interested all of a sudden.
It was about Steam. There is no good guy Steam or something like that. It was basically saying that Steam is bad for the industry and issues with Valve. I will link it to you in Skype right there. We go.
Okay, let me sneak in there. Cool. Valve is not your friend. Steam is not. I don't know how much I agree, but anyway, it's hard to say. That kind of a thing is, and I just read the headline, so I can't really argue with just a headline, but. It's such a tough thing to do because, when it comes out and it's one of those things that it's one of the few places to go for like really independent content or PC only content. Like that was great.
Yeah.
And now that the kind of the floor has dropped and the ceiling has grown as well, you've got just this infinite space for every single type of game and everybody gets lost in the shuffle. I do think there's going to be space for some of these other venues like Itch or Indie Game Stand or any of those Indie DB to kind of grab that very the very core indie developer thing. Yeah. But the way Steam works, it's crazy because you can just generate 100 keys, sell them on your own, and get 100% of the profits. So they're very friendly in terms of a developer taking their game and doing whatever they want with it. But it does bring players back to Steam. So having that central place for players is very useful. But it is good. I mean, it just it all has to go on. The biome has to grow. So this kind of stuff is going to keep coming out until someone makes an alternative that's popular enough to compete, which
we haven't
seems hard.
I know, and that was one of the things from the article. They talked, of course, about people hated on Origin and Uplay when they first came out, but that was deservedly so. They were lesser than Steam. They had issues with Ubisoft had the famous problem of cutting your game off if you were playing a single-player game and you lost internet connection, and I think that's the issue. I know we've talked about this. I don't think we talk about, but I know we've had several conversations about this on the cast, that whenever you're trying to compete with something, you're going to have to compete against them at their best. It's kind of what led into the whole MMO crash, with everyone trying to be the next WoW, but no one was able to put out a game from day one as good as World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same issue with these digital platforms, is that you can't just make a digital platform and call it a day. You have to make one that's going to have to be equal to or greater than Steam. And if we could figure that out, we would be millionaires right now if we could do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the fact that no one knows exactly how much that company is worth, but you can only imagine how freaking much money they have. That's
infinity times infinity dollars right now.
Yeah. The fact that you can do like these online transactions of your trading cards and like, I get a nickel for the card, but you get a couple pennies, and that's every single transaction every day. That's kind of crazy. And they take 30% off the top of each game you sell, and that kind of hurts. Certainly, when you're selling to an actual store, so
Mm-hmm.
you have a publisher and a distributor and whatnot, that will take off a lot of money. But the fact is, they are this strange digital distribution center, so it's very direct. You would, and 30% seems high. So ways to compete, I would say, certainly you'd have to spend an awful lot of money and grab an awful lot of content for yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
giving developers a larger share is attractive, and it's a way to undercut them a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think XP is asking a question. Do you have access to or emails to your Steam customers? Do you have?
Not really. I mean, we deal mostly with developers, and occasionally they'll deal directly with customers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, for the most part, actually. But then we'll kind of ping people. We mostly don't get those emails unless we're set up on their marketing page. The developer themselves usually likes to respond directly, and we like that better because
Mm-hmm.
who wants to talk to the publisher? They want to talk to the developer. So sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Usually we respond to comments on the community hub or any forums we have out there. But generally speaking, the developer is the face of the game, so we want to keep it that way.
Mm-hmm. And that kind of transparency has been really big, especially in the independent scene over the last few years. I mean, I've said this multiple times, but the fact that I can email a game studio and talk to the guy or girl who actually made the game is astonishing. We didn't have this level of transparency like 15 years ago, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's certainly been an amazing way, but I'm sure we can easily talk about like the horror stories of what that transparency can bring, especially with some of the big flameouts, I guess, to say the least, that have happened over the last few years.
Oh yeah, and that it all depends on the personality of the developer. If they react poorly to negative
Mm,
feedback or react too positively to positive feedback, I mean, you as an artist in any regard, you kind of have to shrug off negative commentary and take the stuff that's constructive criticism and separate that from the stuff that is just hatred. So you can always spiral down and fight back and become a pariah, but
mm-hmm. Yeah, and then once you've done that, that's the other part of the transparency because everyone knows who you are. If you have a burnout like that, you're basically going to be blacklisted for the most part for the future.
yeah, I think we discussed this last time
Yeah.
possibly. I forget the company's name, but they made all those terrible.
Digital homicide, I think that's
That's
the.
it.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
I was just talking about that too earlier today, and that's definitely a very interesting case to say the least. Now, another big piece of news I wanted to ask you about, Rob, because this one was kind of shocking when I've heard, is that Destiny 2 was announced, and not only is it going to be coming to the PC, but it's going to be a part of Battlenet. Blizzard is actually going to they're going to use the Battlenet architecture and Blizzard's, obviously, their platform to basically sell Destiny 2 on it. And that is kind of an interesting piece there.
Yeah, that's something I can't really comment on. My knowledge of that game and BattleNet in general is very slim.
Mm.
I have this very scattered knowledge of the games industry, and I have gaping holes and stuff I should totally know, but don't.
it Again, like for me, like it's hard. I'm having a hard enough time keeping up with everything on this end too. I'm sure there are plenty of gaps. Like I always say, like for every day that we're talking, there's probably 20 or 30 indie games that are being released that I've never heard of or never will ever hear of.
Well, that's one of the reasons I actually like discussing this with you. You're very in tune and way more knowledgeable than I am. So I always learn something, and that's really cool.
That's great. And so the piece is, I'm just reading the article from Polygon. So it's going to be available on the PC, but it's going to be exclusively on Battle.net. Well, for those of you who don't know, and this gets even more confusing, Blizzard actually retired the Battle.net brand. Now it's just called. That's actually a really good question. I'm not sure what it's actually called right now. Let me check here. No, it's still called Battle.net in my program, so that's good. Um, but they got rid of the Battle.net branding, so I'm not sure what they're going to call it now. And the other weird thing is that Battle.net is not a digital platform. It's not a storefront like Steam or Origin or Uplay. It simply has been their client to launch all of Blizzard's games from. So you have unified friends list for everyone on Battle.net. We'll just use Battle.net just to make it easier on us. But this wasn't like you had the Blizzard store, which you could buy games from their website. But they've never opened it up to a non-Blizzard game. Like I can't go on Battle.net and play Call of Duty, for instance. And that's the part that's got a lot of people very interested. Because as we all know, Activision Blizzard is now this monolithic thing in the publisher market. And it opens up the door that are they going to turn Battle.net, or again, whatever we'll call it, into like a competitor for Steam?
Yeah, I mean that's certainly the good way to go. I hate it when publishers make their own little area, and you're just hopping from area to area depending on the games you like, and that is to me that's very frustrating. I remember playing. Oh my gosh! Oh God, what is it called? It's a sim game basically, and
SimCity 5?
no, it wasn't. It wasn't like sim. It was just a simulation.
Oh, okay.
God, I wish Anno. That's the one.
Oh, yes.
And I loaded that thing up, and suddenly I was installing something else for 2 hours, and that to me was just the worst experience. And I was so excited to try it out, and by the time the whole signing up and everything was over, and I didn't feel like I was going to get much more out of it than just playing this one game, so I just kind of shrugged my shoulders and moved on.
Yeah. And that's what really drove a lot of people from Uplay to begin with, and from all the other platforms. We mentioned Steam a few minutes ago, and that was one of the big things that made Steam so popular, was that it was pretty much, it's been marketed as one and done. You install this, and then you don't need to worry about patches or downloading multiple clients. And they've earned, we talk about how much money they've earned, it's still unexhaustible the amount of goodwill they've earned from PC gamers from doing all this.
Yeah, and I believe developers alike. Yeah, they do take a big chunk, but at the same time, where else are you going to be able to sell it to that many people all at once? And I mean, there is the argument, is it too big, et cetera, but they did really innovate the space. And I kind of equate them to Apple when they came out with the iPhone. The mobile stores were just disgusting back then. Like buying your space, like whether you're in the main page or not, was rampant. And they came out, and it was really easy to get apps on there. Of course, now it's just bottlenecked, but they did innovate that. So you got to give them the fact that they took that giant leap forward for the industry. And now it's just the time to see if anybody else can compete. And so the whole Battle.net thing you just brought up, that's a very interesting angle, and I'd like to see what happens.
Yeah. And if it does open up the door for more games on Battle.net, again, whatever we'll call it, that could reasonably be a big competitor to Steam. I know there were some big announcements from this company, Tencent. I think they're a major Chinese free-to-play. They were creating their own digital platform. The announcement came last month, and people are saying, could this be the new Steam killer and stuff like that? But I haven't heard anything else out of it. And that's always the weird thing when we have these big things. Like, we'll get the announcement, and then it's kind of like we just have to wait and see, and maybe some news will come in like 5 to 6 months down the line.
I know it's tough for any company established in one country, and I know that they have they have a huge market share everywhere, but they are established in Asia. I don't know exactly what country. I want to say like China or Hong Kong area possibly, but I am ignorant as to where they are based. But going from there to the U.S. or the U.S. to there is just so different. Unless you have a firm grasp on where you're going. You're gonna miss a lot of the people, your potential customers. So that certainly you can adjust to it, but it's rough.
Yeah, and I just looked up Tencent. They're based out of Shenzhen, China. And as a funny aside, the only way I know what Shenzhen is from playing Shenzhen I/O from Zachtronics a few months ago.
Cool.
But yeah, it's like we've been saying this, like everyone keeps saying what's going to be the big Steam killer or the next big Steam competitor, and nothing has really happened. And I mean, who are we kidding? We've been hearing that kind of talk for the last 10 years since Steam really blew up around 2007, 2008. And it's just really, it's kind of one of those weird things. Because again, I would agree that Monopoly with Steam is probably not the best thing in the long run. Because Valve has done some shady things in the past. We have heard some of the horror stories on that side.
Mhm.
But they've done so much to help the PC industry, especially when it comes to the independent scene, that it's kind of like we're in a weird position as to who to back, in a matter of speaking.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. I don't think no one. There's no such thing as a Steam killer. There's just a Steam competitor. It's like saying what's going to kill Microsoft. Well, they have too much money to ever
Yeah.
go away. They're always going to be here. So it's just bringing up competition and allowing people to make a choice. And in this particular market, you don't really need to make a choice. You can go here for that one thing and here for the other. I've got hundreds of games on Steam. How am I going to port that to somewhere else? So
Yeah.
I'm kind of stuck, at least for those games.
And for the consumer side of things, again, I'm sure you have your own backlog of Doom somewhere on Steam, like I do, or the Tower backlog, whatever you want to call it. That, I mean, at this point, to move or pack all that up and go somewhere else is just not really an option. I mean, that's from my point of view. What about from like general consumers? If I mean, we're talking having backlogs of games in like the dozens or the hundreds, but for like a general person who may only have like 5 or 10 games that they haven't played yet, what's going to convince them to switch to another platform and then going to switch to another platform and
Mhm.
again so on and so forth.
Well, I wonder if the big opportunity here is with VR. I mean, because that's new for everybody.
Hmm.
So jumping into VR and having just having a solid platform there for that particular experience might be a way in. But I really don't know. I know Steam doesn't have a firm grasp, but they have a direction. I don't know if anyone else is going to be taking advantage of this new kind of quote blue ocean of technology to kind of establish themselves as the go-to for VR.
Hmm. Yeah, and VR is another one of those very interesting things. Like, it's kind of hard to see just where that impact is of what's going to go on with VR. I mean, we've certainly heard news all about for the last few years, but this has kind of been like the first year that things are supposed to be going mainstream with the the Sony VR, which I can't think of the name off the top of my head, the Rift, the Vive, and so on. But like the same thing like we're talking about with the killer app or the big Steam competitor, I'm not hearing anything that's telling me this is what you should get for VR. The VR experience requires this.
Yeah, and I do think that because people are scrambling just to make VR content, nobody is jumping in to say, well, where is this content going to be located, and then dominating that space. And certainly, like in the gold rush, the people who got rich were the people selling picks and whatnot. So it's selling the store and getting those tools out there for developers and publishers. At some point, VR is going to no longer be a blue ocean, and indie VR developers are going to have a tough time selling their wares. So maybe that's also an opportunity to kind of snag that audience.
Yeah. And it's kind of going to be very telling. I think this year, I think will probably be a really telling year for VR. And wow, we're almost halfway done this year. I think again, time flies so fast when
Yeah.
we're talking about this stuff. But like again, like this is one of those things. Like the last 2 years, you couldn't, trip. You could trip over all the different VR related articles that were on major websites. People, it was the same thing with the mobile industry. I remember when like Farmville and Candy Crush started to blow up. Everyone's saying mobile's going to be the future. You must get on the mobile scene now, and things kind of died off there, or at least have stabilized.
Yeah, the mobile scene is a very tough scene. I've had a lot of people approach me saying, "I got this mobile game," well, and I'm just like, well, um, it's a tough. All I can say is it's a tough market because the top companies have literal billions of dollars to just keep staying in those top
Yes.
areas. and anyone who wants to break in has to just be extraordinarily lucky to get someone's views that branch out to other people's plays and then get some money from that, and to have any game that actually has a cost to it that you want to sell is it's like shooting yourself in the foot unless it's previously established in another environment somewhere. So there is no good strategy for an indie or small company to get into mobile. It's certainly not anymore. So yeah.
Yeah, and then there's the problem that I think the mobile market isn't as welcoming to unique ideas compared to the independent scene. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen a rush of innovative indie games that, I mean, hell, we could spend probably another 20, 30 minutes listing all the ones we've played. But on the mobile side, it doesn't seem as welcoming. As you said, the major publishers or the major developers have kind of locked things down. Like, no one's going to be able to make a game like Clash of Clans compete with it, just like no one's going to create an Angry Birds game that's going to make as much money as Rovio did.
Yeah. I would say that the one thing that like the iPhone does not do is have an outlet for that kind of a developer. On Android, you can certainly build your own store and feature only independent works and kind of let them in at a different pace. But that's kind of the only way to go for a small developer.
Yeah. And I remember when I spoke with Rahul Sagal of Roach Interactive, we spoke about, I think it was like a year ago, about his game, Child of Light, and how he said he ran into so much trouble with getting that game marketed and developed on the mobile side that he just decided to switch it to PC, where he felt it was more welcoming due to its design and the audience seemed to be more receptive. And I was told, and that takes me to another game I'm literally excited about called Shadowhand. It's from the developer Jake Perquet of Grey Alien Games. He did that game Regency Solitaire. If you ever heard of that one?
No, I haven't. I'll have to check it out.
It's basically like Pride and Prejudice, but with solitaire mechanics. But his
funny.
next game, Shadowhands, is going to be an RPG with a solitaire-style battle system that he's trying to. We were talking about this a few months ago. He said he's trying to make this to be the quote-unquote Steam seller. Like he's trying to make this to be as appealing on Steam as possible to that audience. So I'm really looking forward to it. He's been working on it for a while now. Let me see what we're saying in chat. And that's always been and that's the other part about the mobile side is the issue of monetization and how these games are just they hit you with so many different ways to get money. When I gave my presentation earlier in May, one of the parents were talking about is this like we're talking about like monetization? So are all those ads in those mobile games? Is that how they make money? I'm like, yes, that's how they make that money when they have you watch an ad or click on a link or share with your friends. All those in-app purchases or clicks per minute or views or stuff like that are all these little monetization tactics, and they can. And that, my goodness, that's another hour-long topic if we start talking about it. But it's that kind of thing seems to be like a never-ending battle of people trying to find the next great way to get money from someone.
Yeah, I actually work for a company that does that has a monetization feature that allows for gambling in your game. And of course, that's one of those like, should you do it? Should you not? And it is one. I mean, it's a job. So, but that is a hard question. Is like, how do you monetize a mobile game and feel good about doing it? So, gotta make money some way.
Yeah, and that's just a tricky topic. I mean, pricing in video games is such a fascinating and troubling conversation for a lot of independent developers. Do I sell my game for $10? Do I dare ask $20? And then when we get into like $30, $40, you have people saying, what the hell is wrong with you? How dare you be so greedy? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Let me see. Time-wise, we are actually closing in on an hour. I think we'll probably go for like another 10 minutes, and then we'll start to wrap things up. But again, that's always the great thing about this. Whatever topic we talk about can easily be a 30, 40 minute discussion like it's
Yeah.
nothing.
Hmm.
I guess one thing for you, I guess you can plug what you've been doing over here on Twitch. I know I've been hosting your channel, and we were talking about this before the stream, but you are streaming game development on on your channel, right?
Yeah, on Mondays and Wednesdays, I'm making a game from scratch. Like I'm doing design documents and everything. So if you have any interest in that or want to kind of put your 2 cents in,
Hmm.
I'm making a game that's going to be free for all. Pretty much Creative Commons attribution only, which I'm very, supportive of. So, building that game from scratch, learning the tool RPG Maker is the one I'm going to be using to actually build it, to develop it. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do level design for one of the games we're publishing called Venture Forth, and that he has such a great level design system. It's really one of my favorite things about it. So I like
Yeah,
modding, and that allows me to really sink my teeth into it. Fridays and Sundays I do Titan Quest, and Saturdays I do Roller Coaster Tycoon. So
nice.
a little bit of Let's Play, a little bit of design stuff. So I enjoy it.
Hmm. I have to ask, if you're playing Titan Quest, have you played Grim Dawn yet?
Oh no, 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 no! I've been like this game Titan Quest. I've been wanting to like finish it forever, and so now I'm just taking it. Okay, I'm going to set aside 4 hours a week and just play it. So that's what my thinking was.
Hmm. Good luck with that, because I played Titan Quest back in the day, and that can take a while to play, especially if you're going all the difficulty levels.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Grim Dawn, that's a spiritual successor. I know a lot of the people from Titan Quest made Grim Dawn,
Oh, cool.
so I enjoy that. I'm kind of waiting for their next big expansion before I jump back into that one.
Right.
And Venture 4, for those of you who are new, we spoke to the lead designer of Venture 4 on a live stream. I think, whew, some point at some period in the past we spoke about. I don't remember when.
Yeah, it was late last year. One of our many launch dates was coming up and
Mhm.
missed. So hopefully this time it works out.
Yeah, well, definitely good luck with that, and maybe when we get closer, I can have him back on. We can talk either live or record about Venture Forth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he'll be available. I know, God, he adds so much stuff to the game. It is crazy how packed he's made it.
Hmm.
He's very good. He's made the whole engine from scratch. He's a good programmer. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah. And if you wouldn't mind, I think you're on Twitch, or you're on the Twitch app. If you want to type in your channel
sure.
in Twitch, that way for people watching these are live recorded, they can check it out.
Oh, hold on a minute. Let me alt tab here. Okay, so I have to look at twitch.tv/. Oh my God, what did I do? Okay, hold on a second. I'm just going to copy and paste. So much easier. I was trying to be smooth, but no, that's not going to work for me.
Talking and typing and trying to get all working can be very tricky, I know.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you guys watching these are live record, you can check out Rob's channel. I am hosting you during the day as well. And if you wouldn't mind, so your times for streaming, is it always 2 to 4 Pacific?
Yeah, always 2 to 4 Pacific time. There are, on the weekends, I've been asked to increase that to a 4 hour block, so I'm testing that out this weekend. But
Oh,
we'll see. Yeah, I feel like
good
I'm going to
luck
be
with that.
exhausted. Yeah.
I have enough trouble doing like a 2 hour. Well, when I'm doing like a general stream, like if I'm playing a game, that's easy to zone
Yeah,
out for two or
exactly.
three hours. But doing like something like this for like 4 hours, I don't think I have it in me anymore
Oh,
to
yeah. I
do
could
that.
not possibly do design for that long. I'm just doing the gameplay for 4 hours, like you say, way easier to do.
Yeah. And speaking about gameplay and such, for those of you who are watching this who missed the announcement, the new streaming schedule for my stuff, Monday through Thursday, obviously today, of course, we're streaming stuff on Twitch, and then Friday to Sunday, I'm going to be doing streams over on the YouTube channel just to see how the audience goes and how people react. So if you are watching this right now on Twitch or watching the recording over on YouTube, there will be live streaming on the YouTube channel, usually around the same time, like 10 Eastern and such. So, just a little way of trying to get more people to watch and just see where the audience is. But
Cool.
with that said, I know we are getting closer to the hour. I actually missed dinner. I'm actually gonna have a
Oh
late
no.
dinner after this. So I think we'll probably wrap things up in the next few minutes. I'm trying to think if there's anything quick to discuss, but again, quick can mean 40 minutes between us. I guess for you, Rob, are there any topics or anything you would like to bring up now before we wrap it up?
I mean, to keep it short, I'll just shout out the games I've been playing lately. Like, I just started playing Punch Club to get some inspiration for my RPG.
Hmm.
I think that's a very fun little game, a little different. Titan Quest, of course, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. I'm a big roller coaster game fan, so I've been playing Planet Coaster and
That's fun.
Parkitect. And I've avoided a little bit Roller Coaster Tycoon World. I should jump into that again at some point. But I've also been playing Coaster Tycoons 1 and 2 on my mobile phone. So that's been a lot of fun.
How is
Dota 2, of course.
how is Planet Coaster, by the way?
Oh my God, it's amazing. Oh, geez. I mean, it's the same people who made Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, and they've just stepped it up. I need to check Roller Coaster Tycoon World and see what the similarities are, but you can create anything. It is ridiculous.
Hmm. I've been wanting to play that game, but I know it's been. Is it out right now, or is it in early access?
Oh no, it's out. They are adding content every month or so, and it seems like in terms of theming, they might be a little lacking, but it doesn't matter. Like the stuff you can build is like you can place, like say a lamppost. You can place it like just floating in the air, or attached to a building sticking out from the side, or like embedded in the ground upside down, or however you want to use it. And they have like particle effects that you can place anywhere, like
Yeah.
flamethrowers and snow and stuff. I would just say for anybody out there who's interested, just look up YouTube videos because people are insane,
Hmm.
are crazy.
Let me see. I'm trying to think of some other games I've been playing. Auction not included. I got this indie game called what was it? Mid Boss, I think. That it's like from a smaller developer that I'm gonna be checking out in a few days. Some games I'm excited about. I know Paradox announced that they're working with the Tropico developers on a new city builder that's going to take place on Mars. So really interested to see what they do with that. I was just thinking of something else that I was excited about, and now I can't remember it, which is really good. It tells you how excited I was about it. Oh, let me see. It's not coming to me. I guess for tonight, for those of you watching this live, I will be streaming more of the Surge, as I figure I'm this far in. So let me see if I can push through it and try to get a winning or get a win on stream or on YouTube for that. Going to play some more Neo over the weekend over on YouTube. Production line. Oh, now I remember the question that I wanted to ask you, Rob. For Punch Club, what did you think of the system that your stats decay? Because that was like kind of a deal breaker for me. It kind of got very time consuming when I played it like that.
Well, one of the concepts I'm bringing into the new game includes a little bit of stat decay, but it is very predictable. It's not like over time or if you kind of ignore it for a while,
Hmm.
it just happens. So you can predict it, and it forces you to just like you have a location and the stats decay a little bit. You just hop to a new location and you use your currency to kind of keep afloat.
Hmm.
So it's one of those balance things I'm going to try out. I like the concept, but like you say, in practice, it can be frustrating, especially if you're trying to juggle a lot of tasks. Like you can't.
Yeah.
It gets to that in that game. I mean,
Mhm.
are you going to do the superhero? Are you going to do boxing or whatever? It's kind of
Yeah.
a silly amount of things to pay attention to.
Yeah, and that's what kind of got it kind of like rubbed me the wrong way because it got to the point where it felt like every time I tried to go forward, I was hurting myself in some aspect, and it just felt like more frustrating to play, especially since you don't really control your fighter. It's more about what you attach to him.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like I could like get around that. It was just having to deal with that mechanic. I know they added an easy mode later on. I haven't played it since, so I'm wondering how that has been doing for them.
Well, I am certainly playing easy mode right now, so it's. I mean, I can't compare it right now, but it is. I've been able to get through a good amount of the game. It's just you have to keep training your guy if you want to beat people in fights, and at least for now, that's the case. Trying, you have this side, like not even a side quest. Your main quest is avenging your father, but the side quests seem to be boxing. And it's a very difficult thing to kind of wrap your head around.
Yeah. One other game I'm really excited about that I keep checking on like periodically is the indie game Cook Serve Delicious. Have you heard of that
Oh,
one?
I played that forever. That's a
Yeah.
great game.
Yeah, I know he's working on a sequel to it now that every time I check it, I keep thinking it must be out by now. It's gotta be out. But no, it's still not out yet. But
He put so much new content in that original game. It's a good. I like it. I like the game.
hmm all right. I think with that, we are going to wrap things up. If you wouldn't mind staying on Skype for like 1 minute after we say goodbye, just to ask you a few post-chat questions. But
Sure.
we will end things here. So, for those of you watching this, thank you so much for tuning into our chat, whether you're watching this live on Twitch or record on YouTube. Be sure to check out Rob's channel. It is linked right there. And if you are on my stream around the time I am hosting it, so you can check it out here or go directly to his channel. And Rob, it was great hanging out with you for the last hour, and
Yeah.
hopefully we can do
Always.
this again.
Yeah, definitely. I would look forward to it. And thanks XP for the follow. I appreciate that.
hmm And we are looking for more guest hosts for our live show. So if you know anyone on your end, Rob, or if you would like to come back on for the future, I'll be happy to have you.
Yeah, I mean, always I'll come back, but I got people. I got people all over the place.
Awesome. All right, so with that said, I'm going to end things here. Tonight's going to be a little weird in terms of scheduling of videos. I was originally going to do a critical thought, but between talking with my friend Josh and having our little chat today, I think I'm just not going to have the voice for it. But I will be streaming the Surge later tonight here on the Twitch stream. And again, for those of you watching this on Twitch, be sure to check out the Game Wisdom YouTube channel, as I will be streaming from that tomorrow through Sunday. Or if you're watching this live on or watching this record on YouTube, just come back around 10 Eastern and I'll be there. But with that said, thanks so much for watching. If you are new, be sure to like and subscribe. And of course, subscribe to Rob's channel as well. And we will catch you all next time. So, I guess before we say goodbye, Rob, do you have any final things you would like to say or shout outs?
No, I would just say if you have any interest in downloading a free demo of Messenger, it's a very cool top-down shooter with a twist on it. Go to itch.io/, I guess, Indie Voyage and Indie Voyage Rob actually. So free demo, it's great.
Yeah, sorry about that. My voice is starting to croak on me, but there will definitely be one for Friday because I really want to talk about. I have a Souls-like topic that's in my head that I want to get out. So we'll see whether tonight or tomorrow that I need to just explode on that on video. But with that said, I have to go eat a late dinner. I'll let you go, Rob. So, once again, thank you for watching, and be sure to tune in weekly on Twitch around 9 Eastern for more of our show, and catch daily discussions on design on GameWisdom.com and on the YouTube channel. And I'm going to go before my voice completely dies on me. So, guys, have a great night, and I'll catch you all later on the stream.